In the degenerate world, there is nothing quite as refreshing as getting a clean slate. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest, and very happy to have you with us on this Green Light Ventures presentation brought to you by Bet Online. We're going to talk to Scotty M here in just a few minutes and get his thoughts on what's going to happen, transpire over the weekend. But as a guy that went to the racetrack my whole life, this always struck me as being kind of odd. And it was like the old Etch-a-Sketch where you just shake the board up and all of a sudden you're starting from scratch again. And God knows, everybody out there in this listening and viewing audience has probably had to start from scratch many times, especially when it comes to gambling. But I used to get a kick out of it. You had the circuit in New York where the horses raced at Belmont for a period of time, then Aqueduct, and then back in the day, very briefly, just a few short weeks at Saratoga. That meet's been extended. And every time you might have been getting buried, taking shot after shot on the chin while you were at Aqueduct as they were winding up that particular meet. And you're thinking to yourself, my God, will this losing streak never end? It's unbelievable. You're taking him on the chin like you were Jerry Quarry, remember? I think he personally, unfortunately, sank ESPN Classics because people were complaining that every night that you watched ESPN Classics, Jerry Quarry was getting the shit beat out of him night after night after night. It was Joe Frazier, it was George Foreman, it was Ali. And you thought, I can't watch this channel anymore. I can't watch somebody subjected to this kind of unmerciful beating night after night. And maybe you're feeling that way about the NFL right now. Maybe college football isn't treating you so well. But nonetheless, you're sticking to it. And then, lo and behold, what happens? Degenerate heaven as you get a clean slate tonight with two games opening up the NBA regular season. I'm sure all the buzz is about the in-season tournament, which if ever there was a bad idea that needed to go away right away, it would be that. Hey, Adam Silver, what are you thinking? But nonetheless, you got two games, have two games on the slate tonight. The Celtics opening up defense of their NBA championship, laying 5.5 to the revamped New York Knicks. Both of these games actually kind of center around the Karl Anthony Towns deal because Minnesota's in action on the road against the Los Angeles Lakers. Bronny James going to be playing in a game with his father, making NBA history. I'm sure there's some prop bets on how few minutes and how few points Bronny James will have in this one. Oh, would he be on an NBA roster? Nothing against the kid. Seems like an outstanding young man. It's a nice story. The bigger question would be, would you take a price right now that LeBron James will still be in the NBA when Bronny James has a son that is NBA eligible? And that would be the first time. I mean, holy Gordie Howe, what are we talking about here? Where a guy was actually playing professional sports with one of his grandchildren. The Timberwolves revamped. Of course, they got Julius Randle in that deal, and also other considerations. DiVincenzo, a hell of a player, and some draft picks. So two teams that have been reconfigured. Malik Bridges is added to the Knicks, and you're wondering in that particular contest, will the Celtics be bloated from all of the championship celebrations, go out there throwing a stinker after they raise the banner? They may stop just short of having an open casket with Bill Russell in it at center court before the ceremonies conclude, just to inspire the team to go out there and not lay a stinker. Knicks determined. They despise the Celtics, one of the great NBA rivalries, certainly on the East Coast, and probably anxious to show under Thibodeau what they can do with their new lineup, adding some really high-powered, high-calibered key pieces to a lineup that wasn't that bad last year. And you know, Jalen Brunson isn't going to go out there and just be fooling around. So interesting, laying 5.5 with the Celtics in that game. And then, of course, the T-Wolves laying 1.5 on the road against the Lakers. I never cease to be astounded by the Lakers and the fact that even with LeBron James playing like he was 30 years old and Anthony Davis, for some reason, they just can't get it together. New coach there with J.J. Redick, and we'll see what happens if they're inspired tonight to maybe fight off the 1.5 that you're having to lay if you're betting the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you are betting these games, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, every matchup, every breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games themselves. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props, when the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can play poker, you can play blackjack, get involved in over 150 slot games they make available to you. Head to the website today to get in on all the action with America's most trusted site when it comes to online wagering. BetOnline The game starts here. So you get a clean slate tonight. You get the NBA. I think the NBA is pretty treacherous turf to gamble on. We told you to stay out of the preseason. Maybe you made a big score there and you think I'm a fool. But now that that's over and it's on the line and they're playing for real, we know that there's not necessarily total dedication on the part of teams and players to every game on an 82-game NBA schedule. If you were being practical, you would probably try to find a way to cut the season down, but that's never going to happen because the almighty dollar is at stake, not just from wagering standpoints, but the money being generated by the people in the NBA, and they keep expanding and putting more pressure on players to perform and to travel all over the world and do all kinds of crazy things to get the games in. But yeah, a clean slate. You get to start it all over again. I was doing a little research on this, and there are people that think that the NBA is the easiest, the most simple of leagues to hit. I don't know. The torture of those half-court shots, meaningless, going up there. Guy hoists one up from half-court, no time left on the clock. Your team is ahead by 7. They have to cover 5. Next thing you know, thing banks off the top of the backboard, goes straight up in the air, almost hits the rafters, goes straight down, and you end up in a bad position. All right, let me see. We're trying to connect here with Scotty M, see what he thinks. I'm sure he's going to be all over this NBA stuff, but I find it a pretty tough league to navigate your way through from a betting standpoint when you're laying points, and I guess it's become far more popular to go ahead and participate in prop bets, which I saw one tonight with a brilliant analysis to go along with it, usually the sign of an immediate burial, as there was a handicapper that I was reading that was saying, hey, go ahead and take the prop of Josh Hart over 12 and a hook, rebounds and assists combined. You had some nice logic to go along with it, as we're failing to make this connection for some reason. But be patient, people. We'll bring you the ever dapper Scotty M and his selections. He's been riding the crest of that wave with Indiana through the college football season, and he was right again. He was on the money once again. There he is. He's climbing into the chair there and looking good as always. Nobody looks this fresh this early in the morning on the East Coast as we welcome in the show Scotty M. Well, would you go to Hawaii during the week there, Scotty? You look great, my friend. Where'd you get the suntan?
I'm just, just staying in South Florida, Defo, working right now. This is the time of year. Look, this is a great time of the year. Look at it. NBA tonight. I heard you talking about the NBA kicking off. You got the World Series going later this week. College football games all week long. NFL. I mean, is there a better time of the year for the degenerates than right now?
How do you feel about the NBA in general? Where I mean, it's just so tough. You see, your team's up by 24, it becomes garbage time with 5 minutes to go in a ball game. You're maybe laying 7.5. They bring in all of the scrubs. Next thing you know, it's helter skelter, and you end up losing because the team just it wasn't putting up any resistance in the last few minutes of a ball game. Or I was talking about how many times has this happened to you, where it looks like you have a clear cover. You're up 4 points. Maybe you're laying 2. A guy comes down the court there, no time left on the clock, heaves one like he was Jerry fucking West, goes right through, 3-pointer, you're ruined. Where would you rank NBA handicapping in terms of degree of difficulty as compared to some of the other sports?
If I had to rank NBA handicapping, I would say it's probably one of the toughest of all because don't forget these guys are playing about 4 games a week. You know, they get tired. Things happen, like you said, at the very end. They take guys out. They're up big leads. Then they bring in the scrubs, and then these leads evaporate. It's a very tough sport to be consistent with. I got to be very honest with you. And the numbers on the games make it even more difficult because like you say, a team's up 14-16. They pull all the starters out with a few minutes left. Let's say the line's 8 or 7.5 or 9. I've seen these leads evaporate where they come backdoor cover in the last second, like you said, the last shot, some stupid ass shot, a layup, or a 3-pointer at the buzzer. I mean, it comes back to haunt you. I like college basketball, though. I got to be honest with you. I think college basketball is more real, where you have opportunities to really do well because certain teams are that much better over certain teams. Where in the NBA, everyone's getting the big money, and all these teams are making these trades and building their rosters up to be excellent. So it's a little tougher, obviously, when you have paid professionals, at the NBA level versus the college level. So yeah, to answer your question, NBA very difficult to be consistent with That's why I pick my spots with the NBA. I don't like to play back to back sometimes unless the numbers are favorable because these teams sometimes they do a lay down on the second night of a back to back. They don't play as hard as they should. So, you just got to pick your spots. It's a long season, guys. Be patient with it because there are opportunities out there.
Couldn't help but think. I'm a big fan of two-word groupings that often lead to just absolute peril and catastrophe. Number one on that list, of course, would be the two words "I do." How many times? Well, I don't know. I think you might be a one-time happily married man, but yeah, I mean that's been catastrophic for a lot of people. Market price is never a favorable designation. When you see that on a restaurant menu, you're thinking, "What fucking market did you buy this fish at?" I
Yeah,
would never go there. Let's put it that way. If you're going to charge me $62.95 for this entree,
right.
not really favorable. Seven out if you're a craps player. Two words that are absolutely horrifying. And if you're talking about NBA handicapping, load management would be a two-word grouping that I would just never want to have to contend with because it's not always clear. I get a kick out of it using the example of how fickle it is to buy tickets for an NBA game where little Johnny Jones has just gotten out of St. Jude's Hospital, miracle cure. He's going to get the Make a Wish Foundation is sending him down to see the Heat. He drives down with his dad from Palm Beach. They're playing the Lakers. All he wants to do is see LeBron James, get a glimpse of him, and then you see LeBron James in street clothes because it's load management time.
Right.
And you're saying to yourself, what the fuck? I mean, how could they charge you this kind of money for tickets? And it makes it especially difficult because you just don't know. I mean, it's not listed on any injury report. And then arbitrarily, you'll see two or three of the team's stars. If you're watching San Antonio, it's like, what do you mean Wembanyama is not playing tonight, Pop? Get the fuck out of here. Very, very difficult. An odd factor that you have to consider that you really don't have to take into account very often in other professional leagues.
Well, the NBA's been addressing this recently more and more, where they want their key players to play. That's why they started that, what is that? That in
The in-season tournament.
Right, in season tournaments, so all the key players would participate. And now they're talking about fining these players some pretty good money if they sit for no reason. So they're really trying. Adam Silver's trying to do a real good job for that purpose, like little Johnny coming down with his dad. He wants to see the best players, playing on the court that night. And obviously, he gets there, he doesn't see that, so he's crying to his father, and his father gets pissed off. It's just a trickle down. So yeah, the NBA is definitely trying to keep their key players, their marquee names, the ones that you want to come see. Like you mentioned. And I think it's going to get a little better. I don't know if it's going to be a cure, but I think that you'll see more key players playing more often this year.
Forget about little Johnny. I'm worried about the stone degenerate who gets buried by the
Well,
fact
they
that
don't care anyways because they're in action, so they don't care who's on the court as long as they win their bet.
yeah, but it could influence point spreads. All right, let's get into a couple of things here, Scott. I don't know if you want to dive into either of these games. I would assume that since you have this allegiance to the Patriots, you're probably also a Celtics fan. The fat cat theory could apply to this ball game, where we've seen it many times, where teams are presented with their championship rings or trophies. The banner goes up, and then they play like shit that night.
Right.
Knicks you would have to think be determined. I don't know that you have a statement game in game number one, but with all the changes they made, I would imagine that they want to go out there and show that, hey, we're going to be a force to be contended with all season long. That they sort of were last year, although it didn't look like they were a championship caliber team. But do you have any opinion on these games tonight? And then you have the T-Wolves now also reconfigured after the Towns deal, and they go on the road to take on the Lakers, who are going to be in massive celebration mode because LeBron James is playing with Bronny James, making NBA history. And then I think he's also going to vow tonight to play with Bronny James' son as well and make it a three-generation thing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, are you going to touch any of these games tonight as part of your plays?
To be honest with you, I'm going to leave the NBA tonight, opening night, just to watch. I'm going to kind of get a feel for what's going on the next week or so, and then I'm going to start, digging in because I like to see how these teams come out of the box, especially with a lot of these teams making off-season acquisitions. So I want to see how they play. I agree with you that the Knicks are probably coming into this game, to mess up the tea party, as they say up there in Boston. Obviously the Celtics are 5.5 could they win that game by 5.5 very easily? If they're right, they can definitely. If they come in with good energy and they come out of the gates, smoking hot, which they're probably going to try to do. Obviously, defending champs, they want to come out of the gates right, start the season off right. Who better to start it off right with than the team that wants to beat them in the Knicks, and they know that going into a game when they're raising that banner up there for the 18th time. So I'm going to stay off these games tonight. I don't. I think the other game is real tough between Minnesota and the Lakers. Different changes there in the lineups. I want to see how these teams play. But I love some games this week in college football and the
That's
NFL.
what we love about you. You love these games. This is good, Scotty M. And you've been hot, too.
Well, I tell you, I was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. On Saturday, I couldn't do a thing wrong. On Sunday, I couldn't do a thing right. So it was kind of, I lost a tough game with Minnesota on the money line. I put out, last second field goal by Detroit. I saw it coming. Minnesota comes down. They finally get the lead, 29-28. And then they leave 2 minutes left on the clock. You know what's going to happen there. I don't know why it always happens, but it seems to always come back to haunt you. Detroit drives down the length of the field and kicks that last second field goal. So I lost that game, unfortunately, a last play. But I crushed them. I won by almost 80 points. I had Indiana. I told you they were going to blow out Nebraska. And I loved SMU. I said they win by 25. They won by 30. So I was dead on in college, but definitely off on the pros.
Well, no big deal. I mean, you've been winning the majority of your picks here on the show and doing very well for your clients. So let's get into it. Scotty M., what are you looking at this week?
Well, you got some really interesting games, Defo. If you look, I'm not saying this is a play of mine, but Notre Dame 6-1 going into the Naval Academy, who's 6-0. Both these teams are ranked in the top 25 in the country. The number on this game is surprising to me. They got Notre Dame about a 12.5-point favorite in this game. Just an interesting game overall because this Naval Academy is playing fantastic football and dominating. I think they might be a slight, as good as Notre Dame, and they've been beating up on everyone lately. They've just been rolling through the teams they're playing. But this Naval Academy is a very interesting team, and they can put up points as well. Normally Notre Dame blows out teams like this. But I think the Naval Academy, it's not a huge play for me, but I'm leaning towards them. I would buy that line up to about 13 and a half. And I like the Navy in that game because I just think they're playing well enough to stay in the game. But the key game I'm really loving this weekend is this huge matchup in the SEC between LSU and Texas A&M. And I've been following these teams real closely all year. I think LSU's coming into this game perfect for this situation. They both won 6 straight games in a row. They're both coming in on a high. I know it's a tough place to play with the 12th man down there, but I love LSU in this game. I think they're going to give them all they can handle. I just got a funny feeling, and when I have these funny feelings, when I wake up, early in the morning on a Sunday, and I see a number, and it jumps out at me like this number did Sunday with this game, I like the dog in the game. I take LSU to +3, 3.5. It's currently about 2.5. It may go up a little bit. It may go down. But I'd lock it in right now at +3. I think they're as live as can be. Both these teams winning 6 straight games in a row. Yes, tough place to play. But I'm thinking the opposite here. I think LSU keeps their winning ways going, and they win this game.
All right, looking at LSU getting a couple of points, maybe 3 against Texas A&M. Any other college games stand out to you, Scott?
Yeah, a team I've put out last week. I'm coming right back this week. I think this SMU team is about as real as can be. They're making them a huge number on the road against the team Duke. Both these teams 6-1. SMU's won their last 4 straight games in a row. They're playing real well. They're averaging about 41 points a game. I don't see the firepower of Duke. Not saying that SMU may score 40 against a team like Duke, but I think they're going to find a way to win this game by double digits, and they're going to cover this line. It's right now about 11. I'd keep it around 11 or 10.5 on this number. I like to look for value, especially on the road. I don't want to lay more than I have to on a game like this. Both teams 6-1, but I think SMU's offense and their defense can show up as well, and I think it's going to stymie a team like Duke. I don't think Duke's seen an offense like this in a little bit, so I'm going to take SMU to roll. Take that line down to 10.5.
The much maligned former coach of the Hurricanes, Manny Diaz, off to a 6-1 start at Duke. Although the Hey, you could say this about a lot of teams. It seems like every time you're talking about a team in the top 25, the comeback is, well, I haven't played anybody of any significance. And so it's very difficult to get a judgment. But you were right, SMU rolling. And so you're going to lay the 11 against Duke, maybe and I love the way you do this. Just get rid of that dagger and see if you can't get it down to a better number. All right. Anything else on the college slate that you like?
One more team that I'm going to come right back with because I can't understand the number on this game. The team I thought that would win big last week with Indiana, they're making the same line against Washington, 6.5. I mean, I don't get it. Maybe I'm being fooled here, but I don't think I don't think I'm being fooled based on the performance of the team itself. The way they're playing, they're blowing out everybody. No one's even staying close to them. This Washington team, to me, is just like, okay, they're not that great. I mean, they're an up and down team. You're playing against a powerhouse that's just rolling, averaging over 48 points a game and blowing out everybody. I mean, they blew out Nebraska. That game was over before they even kicked the ball off, basically. And I just think that they're going to blow this team out with Washington. I don't see the weapons of Washington to stay on the same field unless I'm being fooled here, which I could be, but I don't think I am. I think Indiana's going to score a lot of points again. Who stopped them? Nobody. The only one that's going to stop them is themselves when it comes down to it at the end of the day. I think Washington's not going to be able to stay with them. I'm liking Indiana, line 6.5. I'd keep it under 6.5, 6.5. Keep it under a touchdown. I don't see how Washington stays with them.
Hey, you know what? It reminded me of the Steppenwolf Classic. Why don't you come with me, little girl, on a magic carpet ride? You're on a magic carpet ride with this team, so why not continue to ride it out? You don't know what we might find. You might find that you end up in a winner's circle again. And it happened many years ago when the professor actually discovered that in the MAC conference, every game was going over. And you would get like Northern Illinois and Toledo, and they'd each have like 50 points at halftime. And it took the books a long time to catch up with that. So
Yeah.
we were managing to cash ticket after ticket almost all season long, playing overs in that conference. And why not stick with your Indiana Hoosiers since they've been treating you so well during the season? All right, I've been using the preliminary perusal theory. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Scotty. If that terminology has any any meaning to you. With my success that I've been having in the NFL, whatever success I've had, it's come from a first glance when the lines first come out for the week, and you look and you say, which one really looks out of whack to you? And the one that struck me this week, and we hit them both last week, of course, with Jacksonville staying in London, looked like a gimme, and then over the Patriots, even though they were down 10-0 at one point in that game, and then last Thursday night, we just thought the Denver line was way out of proportion. I'm also thinking that anytime you see the Panthers, no matter how many points they get, they're a play against. But I kind of like the Steelers with the way Russell Wilson came in and sparked the offense. Laying 6 over the Giants at home. The Steelers are at home in this game. They put up 30-something points or whatever last week, so looked like that was the problem that they were trying to address, and they may have solved it. And defensively, they're strong. And what, we're looking for Tommy Cutlets or something to start for the Giants to give them a spark. So that's the one that stood out for me. But that's been working for me. What are you looking at in the NFL this week?
Well, I got to play, it's like you said, as soon as I saw the number. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to look myself and then dissect it as the week goes on. But when I see a number that sticks out at me, it just, bells and whistles go off.
Yeah.
And this is a game I feel that I've been following this team, and I love this, quarterback, Jordan Love. I love Green Bay. I think that they're going to go into Jacksonville and just do what they do best. They're going to move the ball. They're going to be able to pass against this team. Yeah, Jacksonville won last week. They played against the New England team. I don't even know what that New England team is. It's definitely not the team I'm used to seeing on the field. But I think Green Bay continues their winning ways. They won 3 straight games in a row. Jacksonville, to me, hasn't proven to really beat anybody. Yeah, the game's in Jacksonville, so be it. But they're making Green Bay a 4-point favorite on the road. I think Green Bay rolls in this game. I think that Jordan Love's going to have a huge performance. I'm waiting for this guy to have that 350, 400-yard passing, 4-touchdown type of game. This could be the type of game against this setup that he could have it. So I like Green Bay in this game. I think they're going to, do what they do best, and they're going to put up points. And I don't think Jacksonville can stay with them at the end of the day. Yeah, it could be a high-scoring game, this game. On paper, it looks like it could be one of those high-scoring games. But I like Green Bay. I like the line at -4, and I think they get the job done and win on the road for their fourth straight win consecutively by beating Jacksonville.
All right, so we have three in the college ranks. Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen, LSU plus 2.5 on the Texas A&M game. SMU laying 11 against Duke. Indiana laying 6.5 against Washington, and Green Bay laying 4.5 against the Jaguars on the road. Anything else, Scotty M, for the fans out there?
Only one other thing, not a huge play, but I think the Cincinnati and Philadelphia game has potential to be a high-scoring game. I think these two quarterbacks want to showcase themselves against one another. Cincinnati's defense shown up in the last couple of games after their first 4 or 5 games not showing up, so they play better defensively. But I think in a game like Philadelphia, I think they're going to open up this game. I like the over on that total of 47, 47 and a half. I think this game has potential to be a high-scoring game because I think the offenses are going to not stop one another. If they start getting on that kind of run where they start putting up points, boom, 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 run after another, I see this game being a high-scoring game.
And I started talking at the top of the show about the clean slate thing, and you got the NBA starting up, and I was sort of making a comparison to, and I've seen you many times out at Gulfstream Park, so I know you like to dabble in the ponies, or at least be in the atmosphere there. It always struck me as odd. You'd be in New York, and the Belmont meet would be ending, and you were getting buried day after day after day. You were trying to make excuses as to where all your money disappeared to, vanished to. Oh yeah, I bought gas 6 times on the way home, or whatever. You would tell the person in your life that was holding you accountable. And but then like Aqueduct would open up, and even though it was the same horses, same owners, same trainers, same jockeys, you're thinking all of a sudden, oh yeah, well, it's a whole new thing. So hopefully some of that will spill over with the NBA season getting underway tonight, and we'll see how people do. But I'm with you. I was reading some handicapper that said the NBA is the easiest sport to handicap of all the professional sports. I couldn't disagree more. I would put it maybe in the ranks of being the most difficult of all sports to handicap, just because of the things we talked about earlier, where you just don't know. I mean, who's playing, what kind of people go by, who the officials are. And,
well, the problem with the NBA is it's a long season. Number one, these guys get banged up, so they're out of the lineups a lot due to injuries. Now you're filling spots with other players. They're adjusting the lines. Vegas is, these sports books aren't stupid. They're going to tighten these numbers up. They're going to change the lines on you. So it's like a revolving door with the NBA. So I can't picture someone saying it's the easiest sport in the world to handicap because of the fact of what goes on from night to night. And like you said, they play back to back. A lot of these guys may play, they may not play. They don't even put out a real line until later on. Then they adjust it. It could move 3 points before the game starts because this guy's out of the lineup that night when he was going to be in the lineup. So for me, it's a chase kind of game. The NBA, you really got to be watching these things real tight and real close. There's nobody out there that can tell me that the NBA is an easy situation to make money in. No way. I've been doing it.
And it would help to see a few also, as you suggested, especially here beginning of the season. I mean, we just don't know at this stage. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to lay out a little bit and watch a couple before you start diving in with your own capital. Scotty, I'm always a pleasure. Where can people follow you and get the information that you put out and with your research team and the success you've had over the years? Where can people find that info?
I appreciate being on here with you, Defo, each and every week. The best way to find me, guys, is on TikTok. Just go to my official page, SM Picks, Picks. We put out daily stuff all the time, free stuff. If you're looking for VIP private access to me directly, you can send me a DM, no problem. I'm here for you. I'm always trying to help the players move in the right direction. If you're just out there just looking for free stuff, hey, we got it for you each and every day. If you're looking for some access to some VIP stuff we don't put out on social media, shoot me a DM and I'll personally get back with you.
Now, were you able to shut down Putin and his boys? Because I know they were trying to put out facsimiles of what you do under the auspices that it was actually you. How are you dealing with that Russian interference?
Unfortunately, Defo, in the social media world, a lot of people are getting knocked off, have some type of a following, and listen, I'm just part of it, unfortunately. But you get to it early. You try to nip it before it gets too crazy, where they start taking all your whole following away from you, and your following thinks it's you, but it's not you.
All right. Sounds good. Scotty M, always a pleasure, my friend. Looking good as always. We wish you all the best of luck. Once again, recapping LSU +2 and a hook, SMU laying 11, Indiana laying 6.5. That's been a Scotty M special all season long. You were the one guy who was right last week. We had a split decision going the other way with Nebraska of opinion. And then Green Bay going to continue to roll against the Jaguars, who come back off over a week's stay in London. Started out very sluggishly. That was nerve-wracking for me, because it was one of those things where do you go when you lose the best bet of your life? I mean, it has to be under the auspices of the wrestling tenet of loser leaves town. So that was one of my favorite plays of the week, to go ahead with Jacksonville in that spot. And they made it a little dicey in the beginning of the game. So good luck with all your plays. We appreciate you coming on as always, and thanks so much for being with us on Bury Your Bookie.
Thanks, Defo.
All right, thanks a lot. Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen, man, has been riding that wave with Indiana all season long. And, does it catch up with them against Washington? The kind of a so-so team. They had DeBoer last year. They're right there in the championship game, in there with a shot against Michigan, but not quite the same results so far this year. So might be worthwhile there. Indiana laying 6.5. Against Washington, one of Scotty M's stellar plays coming up over the weekend. Tomorrow, Troy West joins us here on the program. Mike Jones on Thursday. We'll get into the World Series. Mike's a big baseball handicapper, and you have the Dodgers and the Yankees going after each other in the World Series. 12th time they've met in the Fall Classic. And, wow, always great to see this kind of East Coast, West Coast thing going on in the major sports. So looking very much forward to that. And Friday, we'll have the professor who cracked out of his slump here on the show last week. And I can assure you, this is a guy that you're going to want to follow throughout the season, because once he shakes that off, it's almost like Clark Kent going into a phone booth. I think he's going to come out swinging this week. So he'll be joining us on Friday. Some new stuff coming up on the show as well in the coming weeks. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for following us here on Bury Your Bookie. For the people at Bet Online, Greenlight Ventures, and all the people that help us out at No Filter, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, the next edition, as we attempt to help you bury your bookie.